Okay, now don't laugh at my sparkly sequin top. I'm going to an 80s night. And of course, I went yesterday and I said that I'd do this at 6 o'clock today. And it's 6 o'clock today. And I forgot that I'm going to an 80s night at 6:30. And so that is why there is the bling. It is not my usual get, I promise. So all I wanted to come on here and say was that I've been a bit crap at keeping up with my YouTube channel, and I'm going to be better. Not only am I going to be better, but I'm actually going to do a lot more YouTube content. And so I want to get an idea from you guys as to what you want to see on this YouTube channel. So any ideas that you have, I would love that. Any questions that you have, I would love that as well. Don't ask me questions about my sequin top or the 80s night. I don't like a lot of 80s music, but no. I don't like a lot of 80s music, but I do like going out with my friends. So they want to go to an 80s night, I'm in. And this is actually a boob tube. It's a one-armed boob tube get up thing that actually one of my friends bought me. Okay, so Caroline says, hi Tabitha, I keep grazing while I'm in recovery and I feel kind of guilty about it. It is okay. Well, Caroline, you know you're supposed to be eating without restriction, and that is going to include a lot of grazing, but I don't know. I think a lot of the time when people use the term grazing, I think that it often signifies that they actually really want to eat. And so I think that what a lot of people do is they pick at things, especially people with eating disorders, they pick at stuff, whereas they won't just sit down and eat the bag of crisps, chips for the Americans. I'd prefer you to sit down and eat as much as you want to eat, not feel that you just have to pick and pick and pick. It can feel a bit limiting. I hope you know what I mean by that. I'm absolutely not saying don't graze. I go for it, but I'm saying don't hold yourself back either. And a lot of the time, what people with eating disorders do is they will graze, but then they won't also eat the large meals. And I'd want to see that happen as well. I'd want to make sure that you are eating those big meals as well, not being like, oh, no, I'm not hungry for lunch now because I just sort of had snacks. No, I don't want to see that. I want to see you eating properly big stuff too. Finn says, I feel very guilty drinking alcohol. Not a problem I have, Finn. Believe it or not, I haven't already started, but I feel very guilty drinking alcohol as I feel like my body is not asking for it. Other things, I don't feel so guilty for eating because I know my body's asking for it. But I have the urge to restrict before drinking alcohol. See, that's different though, isn't it? You have the urge to restrict before drinking alcohol, probably because you know that there's calories in alcohol. So I think sometimes we have to explore what might be true. And it sounds like a load of orthorexia coming out in that as well. It's like you're going, oh, like I eat other things and I know that that's feeding my body, so I know that that's good and that's okay to eat, but alcohol, it's not. Look, one of the things that's really important about food and beverages, and important about food and beverages for a human being, is that a lot of the time we eat and drink things not because we are hungry or not because our body needs it or for any other reason other than we just want to, or it's just fun, or it just tasted nice. Or sometimes it's none of those things. Sometimes we'll eat or drink things that we don't even really want and doesn't really taste that great to us, but we do it to participate in a social group thing. Like birthday cake is a really good example of that. When I had an eating disorder, I would never participate in birthday cake. I mean, how fucking sad is that? Birthday, it's sharing food. When somebody cuts open a birthday cake, we're not eating birthday cake for the nutritional content, and we're not eating birthday cake because we're hungry, because hopefully you've been at the birthday party and there's been loads of food, so the last thing you are is hungry. You're not eating it for either of those two reasons. You're eating it because it just is part of celebrating that person who's had the birthday. Now, with alcohol, I certainly don't drink alcohol because I'm thirsty, and I don't drink it for the nutritional benefits, and I don't drink it because I think it's good for me. I drink it because, I don't know, I like the taste. It's enjoyable. That's actually true for a lot of things that I eat. But a lot of the time I'll eat something not because it's good for me, not because I'm hungry, not because I even like it. I'll eat that thing because somebody made it for me. And it's just not a problem. It's a big problem for a person with an eating disorder, though, isn't it? So one of the things that we achieve when we go through full recovery and we reach nutritional rehabilitation and all of that, what we achieve is that food is just not a big deal anymore. It's not a big deal in any way. It's not a big deal if you eat something you didn't really want to eat. And it's not a big deal, you don't sit there all day daydreaming about food that you do want to eat. It's just not a big part of your life. It's not a big deal. And that's really what we want to achieve. Okay. Julie says, hi, Tabitha. Does the habit of eating a lot right before going to bed ever die down? I'm eating unrestrictedly throughout the day. My body just wants to make sure I'm starving while I'm asleep. It's a strange thing with eating disorders, but almost across the board, not always. I'd say 5% it's not true for, but I'd say that 95% of people with eating disorders, for whatever reason, we feel less inhibited to eat at night. And I do have theories as to why that is. And I think I wrote that, some of them in Rehabilitate, Rewire, Recover. Anyway, without getting into all of that, super common to eat a lot at night or feel that you can eat more at night when you have an eating disorder. Personally, I would 100% binge at night. I would eat a unfathomable amount of food in a really short space of time, and I would restrict all day. But the urge to eat in that manner absolutely has gone away for me. I've always been somebody that eats something before bed, however. I have done that since I was 2 years old. I will continue to do that forever. Don't know what it is. I just like having a snack before bedtime. But when I had an eating disorder, that's not what this was. This was not eating all day. And then it was just consuming a massive amount of food in a really short space of time in a really uncomfortable manner that felt massively out of control. So yes, I'd say for most people, if you weren't somebody before your eating disorder who snacked before bed, then it would probably completely go away. But if you were, the sort of crazy aspect of it will go away, but you'll probably still be a kind of like, snack before bed type of person. Julie says, I don't understand how this works. I don't quite know what you're referring to, but I had 5 flus and viruses in a row once I started eating unrestricted. It's common. Yeah. I think that when you're restricting and your body's like in this sympathetic nervous place of hell, and it's just biologically stressed, psychologically stressed, really stressed out, and your body's like in drive mode, like survival mode, drive. And then when you start eating without restriction and you start resting, it's like your body goes, oh, thank fuck for that. Whew. Oh, that was crazy, wasn't it? Oh, we can relax a bit now. And then you get sick. It's a bit like people who are workaholics who get sick as soon as they go on holiday or vacation. Same sort of scenario, I think. I think your body's just hanging on, go. We can't stop for a second. And then you stop and it won't last forever. Don't worry. You're not going to be sick for the rest of your life. Give it a couple, give it a little while as you nutritionally rehabilitate, as your life gets back to normal and or this, that, and the other. That will sort itself out too. But sorry, I hope you're eating still, even though you've had all these bugs. Keep eating. Gloria says, do you think exercise can become compulsive for someone who is fully and truly recovered from an eating disorder? Not because of an energy deficit, but becomes a compulsion, like gambling or something? That's a very interesting question, Gloria. I think that if somebody has had a restrictive eating disorder and they've got themselves fully recovered, and especially if exercise was part of that restrictive eating disorder, I think that most of us are so not wanting to go back to that we are very careful. And it's honestly the last person that's going to get an exercise compulsion is someone like me that had absolute hell for 12 years with exercise. And I'm just like, whoa, there's no way I'm going to go back there. I do and have met people that have seemed to have a similar sort of exercise compulsion that I had when I had an eating disorder, but they don't have any other eating disorder symptoms and they don't restrict food. So I do think absolutely an exercise compulsion can be a standalone problem. I think that's relatively rare, or it might not be that rare. It might just be that it's not really ever picked up on. I think that it might also be similar to the sort of thing with men with eating disorders, where because they don't meet the DSM whatever crap of low body weight necessarily and things like that, but they show other signs of eating disorders that aren't on the DSM, then most GPs and treatment providers don't pick up on it. So it could be the case that a standalone movement or exercise compulsion is more common than we think. It's just not reflected in anything because people aren't getting diagnosed. Honestly, I doubt most GPs could see an exercise compulsion if it slapped them across the face. I really don't think. We used to go into my GP and I'd be honest about how much I exercised, and it was a ludicrous amount. And they'd just be like, "Oh, good for you. You're so healthy." I'd be like sitting there thinking, "Fucking hell, I reckon this is healthy." So yeah, I think that's probably part of the problem. Interesting question, though. I haven't really thought that much about that. I will think about it a bit more. Finn says, I also need to say that I have a problem getting triggered by fat phobia. I see fat phobia everywhere, and I'm not super skinny, but not large either. I don't think I'm at my set point yet, so I'm afraid I'll get larger, and people will find me unattractive and other stuff because I'd be larger. Fuck them. Sorry, that's not a very measured response. It's a really common thing to worry about when you're in eating disorder recovery. It's always anybody who's in eating disorder recovery worries about where they are going to stop, where their set point's going to be. So it's absolutely normal that you're having those thoughts. You really need to try and not let yourself dwell on those thoughts. You have to hand over trust to your body and just know that whatever happens, you will be a happier, healthier person. And also know that for the vast majority of us, our brains tell us it's going to be X, Y, Z. You're going to be 400,000 pounds. You're going to be the most obese person on the planet. Because that's just a fear response. The brain's trying to put you off doing what you need to do. So just try not to let it do that. Try to settle in and just know and trust your body that it's going to get you to where it needs to be. All right, I've got 3 minutes before I'm going to be going and staying alive. Is that 80s? Probably. Okay, sorry, I've lost my place. Dana says, how do you get past and just do it? Needing to stop compulsive exercise and eat unrestricted when your weight is normal and you're not severely underweight. Sweetheart, the vast majority of people with eating disorders that I see in my coaching do not present in significantly underweight bodies. And this is what I'm always bleating on about, because that stupid DSM shit says that a person has to be basically emaciated to have an eating disorder. They're looking at body state rather than mental state, which tells us nothing. Some people's bodies go there when they restrict food, but some people's bodies just don't. Some people's bodies just shut down metabolism and don't go to that super skinny state when they have an eating disorder. And when I say some people, I probably mean most people. Because as I just said, most people that I see in coaching are not presenting in emaciated, underweight bodies. Most people are, if you pass them by in the street, you wouldn't have a clue that they had an eating disorder. So that is actually the majority of people with eating disorders. So when I'm talking about all of this shit that I'm talking about people that are presenting in normal body weight. But because to me, a person's body weight does not mean that they, does not diagnose whether they have an eating disorder or not. Their mental state does. And that's what you've got to focus on. You have a compulsive movement issue. You have anxiety if you don't exercise. You have a load of negative thoughts and feelings if you don't exercise. You're probably really rigid about the schedule that you stick to around your eating and your movement. And it just gets worse and worse and worse. And it drives you crazy. And it doesn't allow you to have a life because you can't go out to an 80s night because you got to get up at 5 a.m. tomorrow morning and go to a spin class or something boring like that rather than go out with your friends. So I know all about exercise compulsions, but everything that I just spoke about then is about a mental state thing. Not once did I just talk about somebody's weight, did I? Because it doesn't fucking matter. I don't care what weight you are in. If you have an exercise compulsion, it's a problem and it's one that you need to sort out. Okay, I do have to go, but guess what? I'm going to be back tomorrow. Don't know what time. It'll probably be in the evening, but I will Tomorrow afternoon, I'll put a thing on. I don't know whether I put the Facebook page or here. I'm not very organized, but I will be. I'm going to get better. I'm going to get scheduled with this. I'm going to schedule it and I'm going to stick to it, and I'm going to do more of it. And I do in the community tab. If you ask questions for me in the community tab, I will answer those. Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye.